Ayo! Hey there poetry pals, welcome back to another video. This week I'm going to show you how to write a cover letter. Specifically a cover letter of when you are submitting poems or a collection for publication. If you're looking for how to write a cover letter for a job application, this isn't the video for you. But if you're here for submitting poetry, carry on watching. This is something I was taught on my masters at Bath Spa. For those of you who don't know, I did a creative writing masters specialising in poetry at Bath Spa University. This does mean that the template I was given was specifically aimed at traditional or more pagey publications, but I've adapted it here and there to be more applicable for a wider range of publications. Knowing how to write a decent cover letter and how to submit your poetry to publications and publishers is really important, especially when you're planning on going down the more traditional publishing route. And by traditional publishing route, I mean submitting to a well-known publishing house, getting accepted, boom, sell your book, rather than going down the sort of self-publishing route. I'll do a video on that at some point soon, but for now, let's talk about cover letters. That's right, I'm going back to the original reason why I started this YouTube video, which is I did a creative writing masters, so you don't have to. Before we go any further, please make sure you're subscribed to my channel, and when you just go ahead and click that notification bell, super important for small creators like me to be found so you don't get to miss another video. And also, while we're at it, why don't you follow me on social media? I am at Josie Alford Poet on all the things, and the links are in the description down below. Join me, won't you? Also, my hair is a total mess. I'm normally a grade 1 on the sides, and look at that regrowth and look at the roots, and if I just quickly show you the full pineapple experience, yes, I fully have a ponytail now. The reason I bring up how disgusting my hair is that I'm actually having my hair cut today by my fiance, and so I'm going to show you how that went right at the end of this video, so stay tuned. Hey Josie! Yes. Why didn't you just cut your hair before filming this video? Huh. Also, at the end of this video, I'm going to give you a quick rundown on how I've been getting on with my 27 things before I turn 27. For anyone watching this in the distant future, this is being filmed in the middle of lockdown. That's why I've got to cut my own hair, and that's why I've set myself a weird amount of tasks to do because I'm on furlough and actually loving it, but whatever. With all that being said, let's get on with the video. When you're submitting your poems to a journal or magazine or publisher, you will be often asked to provide a cover letter. In fact, you might not be asked. But considering most submissions nowadays are via submittable, email or post, there is always an opportunity for you to write a cover letter, and if there is space for you to do that, then you probably should. A cover letter is basically your space to tell them a little bit about yourself. As I said in the intro, this template that I'm going to share with you is something that I was taught on my masters. If there are any poetry editors watching this video and you have something to add, by all means put your comments in the description below. This is just based on what I was taught, and hey, if I get loads of information telling me I'm wrong, I'll put out an update video. How about that? So, according to the lecturer at my masters, it's important to keep it as simple as possible. Most editors will be receiving high volumes of submissions, and so you want to make it as simple and easy as possible for the editor to find out the information they need without drowning them in lots of unnecessary things. So, here's the template. So you're going to want to start off by saying, "Dear first name, last name." By which I mean you're going to include the editor's first name and their last name. None of this, "Dear Sir or Madam," none of this, "To whom it may concern," none of this, "Mrs. Smith" or "Mr. Smith" or whatever. Use their full name. This applies to men, women, and people of the non-binary spectrum. If you're not sure about their name, who the name of the editor is, research it, have a look on the website. Most places will tell you. If you still don't know, then I'd just stick with Dear Editor rather than this sir or madam stuff. So your first sentence, very simple and to the point, it should be, I would be grateful if you could include the attached or enclosed poems for publication in insert journal name here. I feel like this first sentence is fairly self-explanatory, but obviously if you're saving this as a template, please make sure that you use the correct version of attached or enclosed, and also make sure that you use the journal name in that sentence. You might also use following. Some people ask for the poems in the body of an email, which personally I find really strange, because how can you do proper formatting for a poem in the body of an email? Am I wrong? So your next sentence could and probably should be a sentence about the journal, why you are submitting. So if this were a cover letter for applying for a job, it would be saying why you were interested in working for that company. But we're not applying for a job, we're submitting our poems here. So I just use this as how I write it on my template is insert one sentence of flattery here. You might want to mention a favourite poem or edition of theirs. This shows that not only have you read and researched the journal, but that you're also a fan and you have an idea of the sort of thing they're looking for. If, for example, you're talking about submitting your whole collection, you might want to talk about any other books that the publisher has previously published. I know that a few indie presses that I have submitted to ask you to talk about which is your favourite book of theirs. This shows that you're not just sending out blanket submissions, you've actually researched them, and that is why you're submitting, is because you feel that your poems will be a good fit with their publishers. Oh yeah, by the way, I feel like it needs to be mentioned, but make sure you've researched the person you're submitting to, organisation, publication that you're submitting to, so that you know there's a good fit. Don't just submit your poems if you haven't read their stuff. Okay, so the next part of your letter would be in a new paragraph, which is where you include your poetry CV. This doesn't literally mean a full page of all of your achievements, but this should be just a couple of sentences on where you've had your poetry published before. That's literally it, actually. It's basically your poetry achievements. So any way that you've had poetry published before, if you've won any competitions. This is where the difference between a more pagey publication and maybe a smaller indie press or a publication or publisher with links to the spoken word community makes a difference. Because if you were submitting to an old, traditional, very pagey publication, I wouldn't necessarily bother putting your performance or slam winning history unless it's a massive deal. But if you are submitting to somewhere that has links to the poetry performance world or has published performance poets in the past, then you might want to include your performance history in there as well. It is at this point you realise that keeping a list of your publications and your performance history is incredibly useful. So if you haven't already watched my submission spreadsheet video, please make sure that you go and watch that, and on another tab in that spreadsheet just keep a list of where you've been published and where you've performed before. This is particularly important. Also, I would probably, hey man, if we're just starting out and all we've done is performed at open mics, wouldn't include that. talking more about performance history in terms of where you've been booked to do it. Unless you've won slams, then include that. Rambling. Okay, next one. This is where we draw to a close. So your final sentence should be, thank you for your consideration. I look forward to hearing from you. It's simple, it's to the point. I don't feel like I need to explain it. Then you sign it off. Kind regards, your full name. Our lecturer specifically said to use kind regards. Here's what Grammarly had to say about why kind regards is appropriate. Using regards in an email closing suggests that you have respect for the recipient, but not necessarily a close relationship with them. Because it is less formal than sincerely, expressions with regards are perfect in emails, which tend to be less formal than letters anyway. So yeah, kind regards, your full name. So that's it. That's the template. Pretty cool, right? So before you send your cover letter, there are a few things that you want to bear in mind. Now all you have to do is proofread your cover letter and make sure you've given them all the information that they've asked for. This template is fairly general, but certain publishers might be asking for your contact details or any other thing. You need to make sure you've included them. If I'm submitting online, either via Submittable or email, I'll include my contact details at the bottom, like it's an email signature. However, if I'm doing a postal submission, which I have done before, never got accepted through a postal submission, what a waste of a stamp. But if I'm doing it through a postal submission, I will include my contact details, including my address, etc., on the top right hand of the letter, because it's a letter, not an email. Makes sense, right? Now you've got to double check that you have laid out your poems exactly as they've asked them for. Depending on what you're submitting to, for example, if it's a competition or a normal publication, or you're submitting your whole collection, they might ask you to put it in a certain font, align it in a certain way. There might be things that they want you to include in the headers and footers. They might want page numbers. They might want you not to include your name on it. So it's very important to pay attention to those and make sure you followed the rules they set you. If you don't follow those rules, it'll be really obvious to them that you haven't taken the care to follow the rules that they've set. So just make sure you double check it. Once you've done all those checks, you're ready to press send or put it in the post box or click submit. That's the scary bit, but you'll be fine. So that's how you write a cover letter. Over the next few weeks/months, I'll be covering more of the process of how to submit your poetry. If there are any particular bits that you want me to cover, please comment them in the description down below. If you've made it this far, I'm just going to give you a quick update on how I've been getting on with my 27 tasks before I turn 27. I've completed a fair few tasks now, and I'm getting really close on others. But I've realised that I'm not going to finish all of them. I think the particular problem lies in a lot of the tasks that I picked for myself to relax. I think I set the numbers far too high on stuff like making 100 origami flowers and finishing the puzzle and stuff like that. I think I set myself too many relaxing tasks and then made those tasks too hard. So I've decided to just let those go a little bit. As long as I make time to do a little bit of each of them, I'll be happy. In terms of my daily tasks, I'm actually doing okay. I'm keeping up with the drinking water and calling a loved one. Doing 10 minutes of nothing, not so much, and averaging 10,000 steps. According to my calculations, I've been averaging 8,840 steps, which means for the next 17 days, I must average 11,023 steps. Okay, so then we've got the scales ones, and I'm not doing so great on writing poems. I think I've been worrying too much about doing my relaxing that I haven't been writing enough poems, and at this point I have to average more than one poem a day before my birthday, which let's face it, probably not gonna happen unless I just go on a haiku binge at some point. I've submitted to 2 out of 3 poetry things. That is not the same as submitting my collection, but more just submitting individual poems to journals and stuff, which is what we were talking about in this video. I'm currently on 376 subscribers out of 500. This is where you come in. Make sure you're subscribed. So I'm currently on 66 miles out of 100, so looking good for that. Not doing so great on the old reading slam when rusty. Realised that I put Harry Potter puzzle on this scale and then had no idea how to actually manage it on the scale, so not doing so great on that. Colouring poster, again, super duper hard. Lego Harry Potter, I have completed 3 out of the 7 books, and we're not, right, drinking on weekdays hasn't happened. We've had people come to visit and sit in the garden with us, and I celebrated submitting my poetry collection. All of these happened on weekdays, and I drank alcohol. So like now just my aim is to just have a fair few days where I didn't drink. So this number is the number of weekdays between when I started the goal and when I finished, and we'll see how we go. And I have made 9 out of 100 origami flowers, so there you go on that one. This week I submitted my poetry collection. My friend is officially updating my website, so that'll be ready soon. I've updated my LinkedIn. I made bunting. I cleared the garden. We cleared the garden, and it's looking really good now. And obviously you knew this last week, but I finished 27 runs of sound salutations. So yeah, doing all right. Instead of doing a course where I wanted to upskill in terms of stuff that was going to help my career, in light of the recent events and the total explosion of the Black Lives Matter movement, instead I am committing to learning more about racism, white supremacy, and my role within that. This is not something that I'm just going to be able to tick off before I turn 27 and be like, ta-da! I'm going to be committing to doing that as a lifelong work of learning, of doing, and I've started by reading, or in my case listening to, Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. I thoroughly recommend. It's currently made it onto all of the best-selling lists at the moment, and a good thing too. It's incredible. It's like a daily work scheme which you work through, and you examine your own privilege as a white person and also what you can do about it. I'm really enjoying the book so far. It's not easy, it's hard, it really leads to some difficult questions to ask about yourself, but those questions are important to ask. So I recommend checking out Me and White Supremacy by Layla Saad. That's my update on how I've done 27 things before I turn 27. As it stands, when this video comes out, I'll have 2 weeks left. So I don't think I'm doing too badly. Better start writing some bloody poems though, hadn't I? Anyway, as promised, here's some footage of me getting my hair cut.
You ready?
So is that grade 1? Okay.
Sure.
Yeah. And here it is, the finished hair. Not too bad, eh? Thanks so much for watching. If you made it this far through the video, please make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you all next week. Bye!